Good morning, everybody. Today I just want to discuss renewable energy and where it is going. Now, currently at this moment in time within the United Kingdom, especially is where I reside, we have hydropower stations being currently built in Swansea and Cardiff. So they are to do with the tidal wave technology. Now, government is also putting investment into those projects. Also up at Scotland, there's a lot on the North Sea regarding the wind turbines. And also I'd like to discuss the fact the way the economy is right now, currently, not only here in the United Kingdom, but also in Europe and possibly the rest of the world. Now, I've recently found out, doing a little bit of research regarding power stations. Now, we have, I don't like to select just individual countries, but to say, for example, we have China, Brazil, including Germany, as well as other European countries that are continuing to build coal-fired power stations. My apologies. Now, I understand in terms of the economic side of things, in terms of it's cheap to build, it's cheap to maintain, and you get the power, the electricity to the consumer, which is us. But on the other hand, that is not the way forward, because it's going against the carbon emissions amendments, which was discussed, the treaty as well, with other nations like NATO, not NATO, the UN, as well as the G7, especially with the United States removing themselves from those discussions, as they were focusing on the economy, which is fair enough. But as I say, this is down to the environment. Now, I've currently been working on a project. It's been on off for a good 2.5 to 3 years now, to try and find a solution where it's, number one, going to be cost effective comparison to nuclear power stations. For example, I've researched this a while ago from The Guardian, which was, if anybody is in the energy sector, we have Hinkley Point. So we have here documentation that Hinkley, the government wants to spend £37 billion on Hinkley. And also I have found an old newspaper article that the government is willing to spend an extra 100 billion within the renewable energy projects. Now, as I said before, I've been working on a project. I'm not saying it is perfect. I'm not saying that I'm an expert. What I do have is a creative mind in terms of trying to find a solution to the problem that we currently face today. Today, we are facing, yes, number one, the economics around the world. A lot of nations are being hurt by this COVID virus. Now, we're also looking at the environment, the global emissions, as well as ecosystems that are being hurt or destroyed. Now, my idea, I know it's very basic understanding, At first, yes, it will be costly, and I have been working on it. It hasn't been effective as of yet, but if anyone does have any ideas, I'm open to ideas. We can work together. Let's help each other. Let's progress forward. Now, if I just show you this. Now, this is just the example of a power station, a hydro power station. So for example here, this is the bottom of the sea with the pipeline here coming to the induction system, which is there. So this induction helps obviously the flow of the water push up to the pump, but also it restricts any fish or any other marine life passing through. Now, when it comes up to the pipe, obviously there's a pump here, one side pump. It's also connected to another side, which I'll explain a little bit further into the discussion later. But right now we'll focus on this one side. So the water will be coming up to the pump, and yes, it's the cliffs of Dover. So the idea is to pump the water up a cliff face. So using this pump, it'll, from the pressure of the pump, force the water up the cliff to the first hydro station extractor, which would the water will pass through and spin the turbines within inside the generator at an angle. So this is not exactly straight, it will be at an angle to help increase the flow of the water, or obviously with the help of gravity as well. Obviously might not have too much of an impact, but it's the idea behind it. And also once it's passed through the first generator, go through to the second, possibly to the third or fourth, depending on the flow rate, and the obviously that coincides with the pressure as well within the system. Obviously, because you'll also get retraction from the water, so that will build up the pressure between the pipes. So I do understand, yes, it would restrict the flow to the next one, so you wouldn't necessarily extract the electricity as the same amount as this one, but this is the idea behind it. And obviously from what I've carried out so far within my project, is I had at least 3 small little turbines as a projection for these big ones. They all produce near enough the same electricity, okay, but it's not enough to connect into the grid, and basically you will be losing electricity out of the grid's national grid, rather than putting electricity back into the grid and helping the environment as well. So once the water has flowed through all these generators, how many generators, water pipes will come down the cliff face again to say near enough medium. So the water from here will flow back into the second pump, as I discussed earlier in this video. So these 2 pumps are connected. So if you understand how a turbo works within a vehicle, then this is the idea behind it, in order to try and create the perpetual motion. Yes, it's very hard, and as we well know, 0 point energy is we're not quite there, but if we can get close, then it is one step closer and one step further in terms of the human species, in terms of the environment, ecosystems and pollution. So we'd either have a turbine that will connect the two, or we'd have an inverter. So when the water comes down here, passes through this turbine, possibly have an inverter to generate from the electricity it's generated from here back into the first motor or pump, let's say, in order to help keep the flow circulating around the system. Now, whether this will work or not, again, this is just an extra feature. I have not tested in terms of these Archimedean screws, so it will need quite a huge volume of water in order to keep these turbines rotating. Now, I've put examples of 3. Might not necessarily be 3. It might just be the 1. So when the water comes down, flow down, and it will go back into the sea. Yes, I've also understood in terms of waves. So you could cover this with concrete over the top just to shelter it from huge waves clashing with the turbines, obstructing the flow, the generational flow within these Archimedean screw. So this is my point, and that idea. Yeah, this is my business that I've created as well, Earth Energy Ltd. So reasons behind this is I want to help benefit the ecosystems. So as I say, not causing too much of a disturbance within ecosystems, and also having mines digging up uranium or coal, etc. like that, in order just to power these coal-fired power stations or nuclear fuel stations. Now, I understand nuclear fuel is it is very beneficial, yes, but it is very unstable. Reason why I say that is, I'll give you 2 examples. You've got Chernobyl, as we all know, that exploded, and also not too long ago, within the mid-2000s, I believe it was in Japan, that nuclear power station was cracked and it was leaking out nuclear waste into the sea, and it was becoming very unstable due to the heat, obviously, because it's an unstable molecule and it generates a lot of heat. So that heat what helps the water heat up and then turn the turbine, if nobody knew how nuclear power stations worked. Okay, I'm not claiming that I'm an expert, I just know the basic knowledge is behind the systems, but in order to help it work and the functionality, I do understand. Now, as we all are aware, it's quite costly to repair stations, especially nuclear power stations. A high degree, you gotta have a lot of safety aspects just to work within that station. Now, going back to my idea, the other idea with this, again, I understand sea salt would have an effect on these systems as well. Again, if you like to contribute ideas, if you want to collaborate, working together, I'm very happy to do so. Also, I've not put too much of an investment recently, obviously due to current times. This is one of the part-time projects that I've got on at the moment, as I currently work for somebody else. As much as I do have a company, but it's not currently operating, but it's still registered. So with this, if we can have ideas like this to implement around the world, especially in countries with islands, say the Caribbean islands, also that would help benefit that system in terms of with taxation, by selling electricity to neighbouring countries in order to create an income. So this is my idea to help other nations. Let's help each other, let's benefit each other, and let's see where we can progress to. I know in terms of my idea, I have adjusted the idea recently, but I might disclose that either with whoever is watching this, and see what other ideas we can bounce and try and experiment with in order to get a working system. And I do understand it all in terms of the system that I've came up with. I do understand it will need a lot of power to generate it first, which is why I also thought of tidal wave technology around, obviously because it's next to the sea, possibly solar power as well, just to help to increase the electricity to the pump, and obviously keeping that flow rate within the water system continuing on, obviously to extract as much energy from these generators to put back into the grid, the national grid. So as I say, I have seen other projects around with hydro systems, currently one in Brazil, where it takes it diverts one off from a river. Very simple, but very it's maximizing everything, and it's helping the economy, it's helping the ecosystems, obviously with fish, etc. Unfortunately, I haven't got a link for that as of yet, but it is on YouTube. If you just type in small hydro power stations, I'm sure you might be able to find it. So if I just describe how it works, so you have the river that comes down, and then it'll be cut off from the river, just a small section. So you divert in the water from the river into the small section. Yes, you can control the flow by a door or gate. So when that gate opens, it will flow down, and because it's going downhill, you've got the big turbine at the bottom. So this big turbine will flow. You know how water flows down in the sink or in a bath. Once it's empty, it's swirling down. So it's that momentum of the water, it's pushing the turbines. So obviously, because the turbine is the blades on the turbine are quite large, so fish wouldn't get hurt, which is also an important factor, because we don't want to infect the ecosystem and harming the environment as well. And then that generates or extracts electricity from the turbine, and it continues flowing downhill, and it will feed back into the river. So it's a very effective system. I applaud the individual who came up with that idea. It's brilliant, I like it. But right now it's on the small scale, which most people would honestly say this is where you would have to start. I'd also like to mention one currently that I've seen. It's being built in Scotland. It's more like tidal wave technology, but it's got two turbines. So it's going against the current, the belt. If you understand the Earth's water belt or the sea belt, so it will go within that belt, and obviously from the flow of the sea or the current, this is how it's extracting the electricity on these turbines. There's 2 turbines that are continuing, which is a good idea, a very good idea. And I'd like to see that how that does in future. Obviously they're currently building the very first one right now, so yeah, that's a great improvement, great step forward, and in terms of creating a few megawatts of electricity, which is fantastic, because this is the aim from Renewable Energy. If anybody can tell you from Renewable Energy, it's in order to try and extract mega voltage or megawatts. It is a challenging, I won't say it's impossible, but it's a challenging, and we will do it with the technology that we currently have, but it also comes down to expenses of these individual projects. So which is quite an interesting fact to check out with that. I do also understand there's also other projects going around, as I say, with the solar. Solar technology has been on improvements for quite some time. So instead of the normal silicon molecules to create these solar voltaic panels, they have nano silicon. So with these nano technology as well, which is incorporated into the solar technology, to increase more than 40% extracting electricity from the sun's radiation, sunlight. Fantastic, another step forward. Wind turbines, me personally, yes, as much as they do create electricity, I do have my my negative views regarding that, due to the fact they still use fuel, petrol, in a tank at the bottom. That's for the braking system at the top of the turbine, in order to prevent the turbine from spinning out of control and breaking off, and flying everywhere and causing other havocs around where it is. So I do understand, but I'm sure we can come up with a better system. And I do understand, obviously, with oil companies, and need to have that business as well. But current moment in time, we still got the motor industry for using the fuel, and let's see where the investments with other companies take these projects as well. So going back onto my project for this one, again, I'd just like to reiterate, if anybody or any company would like to join partnership, I'm very happy to. I'll sit down with whoever, we'll discuss further. I'm an open book right now, so right now I want to generate with renewable energy, especially hydro, apart from dams, to create megawatts close enough to nuclear outputs, or possibly more than nuclear outputs is the better aim. I'd like to reiterate with that, and so we can have a great future in ahead of us. Great for the as I keep mentioning, great for the environment. Pollution will reduce, and also it will benefit ecosystems around, because right now with this current system, obviously with minings and burning fossil fuels, releasing the carbon dioxide, into the atmosphere, and causing smog around cities. For example, it used to be around the United Kingdom during the Industrial Revolution, but current moment in times, you could look to places such as China, which are facing with a air pollution situation. So please contact me, email me if you need to, which I'll send it to you if in an individual basis. We'll take it further, and I want a better future for all of us, and especially our children as well, so they won't have to suffer like our ancestors have suffered in order to get where we are today. And we shouldn't be moving backwards, we should be moving forwards. Hence why I brought up about other countries building coal-fired power stations, which is not really the way forward. So please comment, let me know, speak to me on an individual basis, get in touch, and then yes, I do want to take it further. I do want to help the environment, so let's do this. Let's get prepared, let's start moving forward, let's start living a better future. And and my slogan is for my company is providing energy for all. So please, in future, let's do this. I'm an open book, so have a good day.